friends, it's me, Christiana Gaudet, your tarot fairy godmother. I have been a full-time tarot professional for about 30 years now, and a lot has changed over that time. This is a quick story time. If you are a professional tarot reader or an aspiring professional tarot reader, you will particularly enjoy this. It illustrates a few things, including how much has changed over time, how we need to be flexible with the times, how hard it is to do business in a world where what we do is not always accepted as a real business, and how important it is to use your voice and ask for what you want. Okay, when I first started, I didn't have an email address, I didn't have a website because nobody did. Like back then, it was like we called websites home pages. Like now your home page is one page of your website. But we were like, should I have a home page? Do I need a home page? How do I get a home page? Of course, I have always been, for my whole career, married to the person we call IT John. So as soon as it was time, like I needed a web page, he made it for me. And, I've been really lucky that way. It's very helpful to have built-in technical assistance. But I say all of this just to illustrate how non-digital I was in the beginning. To advertise, I would advertise in the local paper. I would go around to local bulletin boards and put up flyers on local bulletin boards. And I became the resident psychic of many different radio stations. I was a full-time reader, but all of my business came, or like 95% of my business came from the area around me, the area I could drive to, the area that could drive to me. I did a lot of parties. I saw a lot of people in person. It was important to have a physical office because people had to come see me. And I made a full-time living doing that, but it was a lot. It was hard. Can you imagine now running a tarot business just on local clientele? Now, did I do phone readings back in the day? I did, but I didn't like to because the way you had to pay me was to mail me a check. That was the only way. What I desperately wanted, and remember, this was a time before PayPal, social media, Cash App, Zelle. Like we didn't have any of that. There was no way to transfer money to someone except to hand them cash, to give them a check, or to use a credit card. So I desperately wanted a credit card machine because I knew that would make life easier doing parties. It would make life easier in my office, but more importantly, it would open up phone readings. I would be able to do phone readings for the entire English-speaking world. What I needed was one of these. Of course, back then, it was a lot bigger, right? The technology has changed. Now, does a new reader need one of these? Probably not, because we've got PayPal, Cash App, all of those different things. Does it help to have one of these? Of course it does. Of course it does. It's called a merchant's account. And to get a merchant's account, probably now as then, you had to prove that you were a legitimate business person. So back in the 90s, was it the 90s? No, it wasn't the 90s. It was the early 2000s. It was probably like 2001, 2002. I called the organization that could grant me a merchant's account, and they said, oh, absolutely not. What you do for a business, we do not grant merchant's accounts to people who do what you do. I did not take no for an answer. This is the important thing. I did not take no for an answer. Now, if we're talking about personal relationships, definitely take no for an answer. But if we're talking about business relationships, sometimes you don't take no for an answer. And this was interesting for me because, believe it or not, I am naturally kind of a shy person. And I naturally will not necessarily stand up for myself in any kind of a logical or understandable way, right? This was my first time doing this, and I've gotten better at it since, right? So I said, I feel like that's discrimination. I feel like you're discriminating against me because of my kind of business. And she said, that's not it at all. And I was like, yeah, it is. That is it. Because that's the other thing. People lie. I say, you think I am one of those scam artists, and I'm well aware that a lot of people who do what I do are actually scammers and don't really do what I do at all, but they fall under that same umbrella. And you think I'm one of those, and I understand that. You need to let me prove to you that I am a legitimate business person. How can we do that? And she said, okay, here are the things I need. I need a website with your name, an email address with your name on it. I need references. I need to know. I need to prove this. And of course, we didn't have links. I couldn't email a bunch of links. But what I had, I faxed that woman like 20 pages of newspaper articles, thank you letters from charities, because I do a ton of charity work. I was employed by the US Navy to entertain at the naval base. I sent proof of that. Guess who got their merchant's account? Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I did. Changed my business, expanded my business. Do you need one now? Maybe not. But the point is, whatever it is you do need, people might not want to give it to you. But if you can prove who you are, and if you can ask for that opportunity to prove who you are, you might get what you want. That's what I learned.